We just bought the brand a year ago. It was a disc replay. The founder was my first business mentor. So it was crazy. Like 16 years ago, he taught me everything that I know. And then he chose me to kind of continue his legacy, which was, it was a surreal moment for sure.
Like, why fantasy writing? What do you enjoy so much about that genre?
I read science fiction, thrillers, fantasy, and whatnot. But I think when it comes to fantasy, there's just so much creation with that, right? You create worlds, especially when writing it. My imagination can just go wherever it wants to go. And I think I just like that freedom and just being able to completely just take the reader into a foreign place for a couple hours and letting them get lost in that experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how is disc replay still alive?
So we're a very adaptable company. So we have just been continuously evolving over the past, really 30 years.
Let's talk about this new book.
Yeah, so this one is my newest book. It's The Space Between Us. And the concept here is navigating difficult conversations.
So you didn't go to school for entrepreneurship or business. You went to school for engineering.
Yes.
So why entrepreneurship? So I grabbed this. I don't normally do this, but you have so many things going on that I had to write them down. So I'm gonna say these. Plato's Closet, affiliate with them, right?
Yep.
Okay. Disc replay.
Yep.
European Wax Center. My Salon Suite. And then Superior Fence and Rail.
Yep.
Did I miss anything? And then your book writing.
And the books.
And it's Leja.
Leja. Yep.
And Leja Stories.
Yep.
First of all, it's funny because it goes, okay, I can see Plato's Closet, I can see Wax Center, I can see Salon, and Fence and Rail.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
So I read a lot of from Warren Buffett. So a lot of my investing philosophy comes from him. I've read all of his shareholder letters and things like that. And he focuses his investing on kind of what he calls like simple, boring businesses that's like off the radar, not cutting edge. So like right now, like I don't want to do anything involving like cryptocurrency or like Bitcoin or any of that kind of stuff. AI, it's too volatile. There's definitely a lot of money being made there, but it's just a lot of smart people competing there.
Right.
So I'm looking for businesses that are just simple, easy to understand, not really changing a whole lot. And I've been in brick and mortar retail for a long time. I did want to branch out of that because I didn't just want to be a brick and mortar entrepreneur. So Superior Fence and Rail, a wooden fence 30 years ago was pretty similar to a wooden fence today, and probably will be pretty similar to a wooden fence 30 years in the future.
Right.
Fences aren't really changing as far as, it's not like one thing's hot this year and gone the next. I mean,
it's a fence.
It's a fence,
Right.
It's boring, but I love it. There's not a lot of competition in the market. And it's really cool because I've learned so much. Let me tell you, driving. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, when did you get involved with that business?
That was about 3 years ago. So that's my newest one.
Okay. And what brought that on? Like just randomly, like I want to diversify, like why fences?
It just because it kind of fit the criteria. So really like what started it is, okay, we've got a collection of businesses. I'd like to get into another business just to diversify a little bit. And I genuinely just love learning about just the world and how it works. And as you get into a business, you learn a lot about how things work behind the scenes. So that kind of prompted the search. And then we landed on Superior Fence and Rail, and I'm a serial franchise guy, so I look for franchises to invest in.
Makes sense.
The franchisor, the founder, is really, really great guy. Actually cares about his franchisees and their success, which is actually hard to find these days. And the business model just made sense. Territory was available, and just kind of checked all the boxes.
Is Plato's Closet a franchise?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
I had no idea. I always assumed they were. Are most stores like that franchise? I feel like I just assumed they would be a corporate store. That kind of shocks me.
More than you think are franchise. Definitely not all locations, but more businesses than you think if there's a bunch of them. Like McDonald's is a franchise, Taco Bell, like none of that's, well, I don't want to say none is corporately owned. I'm sure maybe some, but the vast majority are all franchise owned.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like I worked at Steak and Shake growing up, and ours was a corporate location, but most were franchised.
Yep.
And so it's interesting how they have that hybrid model where do you think they do that to like have some test stores so corporate can at least have their pulse on what's actually happening instead of giving it all to franchisees? Or I wonder why there's like that hybrid model of some stores are franchise, some stores are corporate.
Most franchisors would probably want to go one way or another. Either they're all corporate or they're all franchised locations.
Right.
Because if you're owning a unit, that's like one business model, but being a franchisor is a completely different business model. So like Disc Replay. Last year, I bought the brand Disc Replay. So I'm a franchisor and a franchisee. So I kind of have an experience on both sides. And being a franchisor is like just a completely different type of business than actually owning a Disc Replay store. It's just like, it's not even comparable.
Well, I have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this show because you asked me that earlier. So that's my answer. There is a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this show. What would be the difference that you found so far between being a franchisee and a franchisor?
Well, I'm very new to the franchisor. We just bought the brand a year ago, and there's a lot of things to fix. Thank you. Yeah, it came full circle. It was because the founder was my first business mentor. My very first business was a disc replay. So it was crazy. Like 16 years ago, he taught me everything that I know. And then he retired a year ago, and he chose me to kind of continue his legacy, which was it was a surreal moment for sure.
Good for you, dude.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So as a franchisor, though, it's all about helping the franchisees be successful. And we haven't actually started taking on franchisees because we've been laser focused on really making sure our business plan is airtight for them. Our software is rock solid. We have proprietary software, our website, we're getting that redone now, branding. So when we bring franchisees on, they can just be rocking and rolling. But like with owning a disc replay store, the focus is how to serve the customers and how to staff a store and serve that community. As a franchisor, a good franchisor, in my opinion, it's how do I help these franchisees achieve their financial goals by being a business owner, which is very different from selling video games to a
being
local
the
customer.
actual
Exactly. So it's a lot more business. What kind of systems and processes do we put in place to help our franchisees be successful to make sure that they can live their dreams by joining us?
Wow. And so disc replay is where this all started for you.
Yep. My first business.
When was that in your life? When did you start your own first business?
So
how old were you?
So I graduated from Kettering University up in Flint with an electrical engineering degree in the fall of 2008. And then I opened Disc Replay in July of 2009.
Wow.
And I just turned 22.
Wow. So but you didn't go to school for entrepreneurship or business. You went to school for engineering.
Yes.
So why entrepreneurship? Where did that come from?
Good question. So my big passion has always been writing. I was an avid reader when I was a kid. I wrote a couple of fantasy books in high school and college. And my ultimate dream was/is to be a writer. But I'm a numbers guy and statistics guy, and the number of authors who are able to pay the bills by being a creative fictional author is very, very small. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was a kid, and my dad gave me that book. And I became obsessed with the idea of basically creating a handful of businesses to create some passive revenue that would then solve the financial burden. So then I could just be an author, and I didn't have the pressure of paying bills with the writing, which would allow me to be a lot more in tune with my creative side. So writing has always been the end game. And being an engineer, that was just something I knew wasn't probably going to get me that way or get me to that place.
Gotcha. And so this replay was the first opportunity that came across your lab. And then, so from the beginning though, with Robert Kawasaki, that's his name, right?
Robert Kiyosaki. Yep.
Kiyosaki.
I think anyways, I'm pretty sure it's
Kiyosaki.
Close.
Yeah.
We'll go with Kiyosaki for
but
today.
You were, right. But you were planning to expand. This was always the goal, is to try to expand. What was the next business after Disc Replay?
Plato's Closet.
Okay. How'd that come about?
I really like the resale aspect of Disc Replay because we buy and sell stuff. So it's kind of recession resistant, right? And hard times. So we opened Disc Replay in the summer of 2009.
I was going to ask you about that.
Great during the Great Recession. A lot of businesses were struggling, and we were doing great because people needed a way to get money to pay their bills so they could sell to Disc Replay. And then people also needed entertainment at a lower price than buying it new. So we kind of satisfied both ends of that. So I love the resale industry. It was also kind of a little bit more Amazon resistant. Just it's harder to buy and sell used things on Amazon, versus just being able to bring a bin full of games to a store and drop it off and get cash that day. You got to deal with shipping. So I really love the resale aspect, but I did want to diversify because we're slinging discs, right? And this is like 15 years ago, and people are like, dude, you're crazy. But Blockbuster's going out of business and stuff like that. So I wanted to do something in resale, but not with discs. And so then I came across clothing with Plato's Closet, and they were the number one brand in that sector. So
how is Disc Replay still alive? Honestly, it's survived, and that's amazing. That's a testament to the company. Yeah. But how have you guys figured out a way to stay relevant in an age that this kind of stuff really isn't popular anymore?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, a lot of it is just the people we have. So we're a very adaptable company. We're not this is the way and follow, don't ask questions. We've always encouraged all of the franchisee locations. Some franchisees are very strict. Here's the playbook and do the playbook and don't deviate from the playbook. And this is it.
Right.
Being curious and adaptive is one of our core values as a company. And we encourage people to shake things up and try something different and make mistakes and do that. So we have just been continuously evolving over the past, really 30 years. It used to just be a CD store back in the day. Then when Napster came out, that people were telling the original founder you're going out of business. And then we got into to movies, right? Instead of just the music CDs. And then Netflix is coming out, it's going to be out of business. Then we got into video games. And then we got into electronics. And now we're buying and selling trading cards and pop vinyls and collectibles. And there's always stuff to buy and sell.
Yeah. So it's more of you're just evolving the business model's there, which is you know what to buy, you know how to sell it, you know how to price that to make margin. And now you're just kind of like following the trends that make sense. It's genius. I mean, it makes sense. And then you've already built the brand Disc Replay. So then there's a brand that people recognize and they come into the store like, oh, I didn't know you sold this. And
it is. And
there you go.
And one of our kind of 3 uniques is we have a mega selection. Every visit's a treasure hunt. So like when you come to Disc Replay, it's not just a place to transact and buy and sell things. It's an experience, right? You can come in there with your, I mean, there's stuff for all age groups. So kids have like Disney games or pop vinyls they can buy, collectibles, action figures, things like that. So really kind of double down in that experience and that treasure hunt aspect has kind of helped us a lot.
So Disc Replay, Plato's Closet. What was next?
European Wax Center.
Okay.
So one of my business partners out of Chicago, his name is Chad. We're really close friends. We've been in business for a long time together. He actually was involved in European Wax Center when I met him. So I just got involved. He was already in that one. It was working. My role in that one is more passive. I was kind of overseeing the operations with the Disc Replays and the Platos. He did the European Wax Center. We talked about high-level strategy on like what markets to open, stuff like that. But he was really the one who oversaw the operation. So that's probably the one I'm the least involved in, but it is a brand that I'm still involved in.
That's awesome. And then I'm assuming it went My Salon Suite next, and then Fence Rail.
Yep.
Right.
Fence Rail.
And the whole time you've been writing though, right? Have you been able to stay consistent writing because I own only 2 businesses. Well, 3 if you consider the podcast a business. I don't know if that's a real business.
Only 3 businesses.
Yeah, only 3 businesses.
That's good.
Yeah, well, it's a good start for us. And I feel like I can barely even keep my head above water. And you have 6 and you're writing a book. So how have you been able to manage your time, managing these different things and keeping your dream alive, which your dream alive is writing?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, no, I have not been writing the entire time. I definitely got obsessed with the game a little bit of businesses and just like creating more. I mean, there's a loop, right? I mean, you've read about this, I'm sure, a lot, whereas you set a financial goal, you hit it, then the next goal and the next goal, and you're just like spinning the wheel until you pass away. And that's it.
That's your hamster wheel. Yeah.
Yes. So I definitely got caught in that. And unfortunately, I didn't write for probably the first 10 years or so of it. And I kind of got a little too obsessed and too caught in the game. I had a major business setback. What I call major business setback like 5 years ago. And that was a major paradigm shift. So I kind of had like it was a major paradigm shift. And then I remembered my why that I had lost through the game. And then I decided, okay, like from a financial perspective, I don't need to do anything else. I can, and I still do enjoy the game. I'm still playing the game, but I'm not obsessed by it. But I definitely got blinded by the game and I lost track of my why. So I found that about 5 years ago. And so about 4 years ago is when I actually started to get actively writing again.
That's awesome. So tell me about your books. You have some books here. I want to know about what you're writing. You can talk about what you started writing again, but you said before we go there, I want to pause. Before we go there because I'm curious about this. It looks beautiful. By the way, look at this beautiful artwork. I was a big fantasy reader growing up.
Okay.
So this is exciting for me.
Awesome.
It's dusty. It's been years since I've read a fantasy book. I mean, probably since high school. But I was probably one of the only people that I know that invited their librarians to his wedding.
Wow.
That's how much I was at the library.
Wow.
They came.
Okay.
And
mad respect.
Yeah. So big, because I grew up in a small town in Macomb, Ohio. I rode my bike. Literally the only thing we had was a cookie factory, but you couldn't even buy cookies there. It was just a cookie factory. You could smell the cookies and that was it. And we had a library. That was our town. And so every day during the summer, just rode my bike to the library. Got a new book. Read
That's
it.
awesome.
And, I don't know if obviously like the Aragon series. I don't know if you read those.
I saw the movie. I didn't actually read that one specifically.
Christopher Pitt, he was like 18.
Yeah.
When he started those. Great books. Heavily recommend. Do you ever read like Artemis Fowl or any of those books? That's kind of the fantasy I was in. It was always like weird, fun fairies, other languages, dragons. Like that was the fantasy I loved. Okay. Yeah.
I didn't read that one specifically. I read Lord of the Rings. I read all the Goosebumps books when I was in middle school, of course. I read every single one of those. And man, it's been so long. I think I read like a couple of the Wheels of Time books. I read the Redwall books. I don't know if you read those.
Yes.
With the mouse.
Yeah, Brian Jacques.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We just turned on one of our family in our church to those books.
Okay.
I was such a Redwall fan.
Well, my second book, not to jump to it, is Journey to Enya. It's heavily inspired by the Redwall books. The main character is a mouse.
Really?
So, and there's one of the things that I love that he did in the books was whenever he was describing the feast that they had. Yes. Like it sounded amazing.
It was literally like Charles Dickens for children.
Yes.
It was incredible.
It was so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to be arguing with people on like back when they like wiki forums on like which order of the books you should read them. Because you had the order on the backs and it started with Redwall. And then it was like Martin the Warrior or something like that. And I was like, no, it needs to start with like Legend of Luke and you need to walk through the Crotch. Dude, I loved
those books were so good.
They're great.
I loved them. Such a good book.
Who knew? I didn't know there were that many Redwall book readers. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Love Redwall. And so I'm excited to hear about that book and the inspiration behind that. So I was a big fantasy reader. What about fantasy to you? Like, do you enjoy the genre so much? Why fantasy writing? Like, do you enjoy that? And that's still kind of what you write today, right? So what do you enjoy so much about that genre?
It's a good question. I think I read science fiction, thrillers, fantasy, and whatnot. But I think when it comes to fantasy, there's just so much creation with that, right? You create worlds and it's so different from reality. Whereas if you're a thriller, again, I love a good thriller and everything like that, but it's still grounded in reality, which has pros and cons or whatever. But with fantasy, I can just, especially when writing it, my imagination can just go wherever it wants to go. And I think I just like that freedom and just being able to completely just take the reader into a foreign place for a couple hours and letting them get lost in that experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so this is about to get fun. This is going to be exciting for me because I when you were on, I was like, maybe we could talk about business, but now I'm like hooked on this because this is incredible. I've always wanted to know how a fantasy writer can create a world and then not only create the world, but keep track of the world and the rules of the world and the languages of the world and the relationships and the names. And to me, I just start thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm lost even starting. So how did you develop this skill to be able to, because it is a skill to be able to take a world and just have a reader track what you're creating.
Right.
So how did you develop this ability to do that?
Well, probably the first thing was the writing process that I had to get down. And Stephen King published a book called On Writing, and I read that book. It's a phenomenal book. So if anyone's out there looking to become a writer, the book's amazing. The first half of it's like an autobiography of his life, and the second half of it is specific writing advice / tips and tricks. So when he writes 2,000 words a day, every single day, 7 days a week, even through holidays, whatever, when he's actively writing. And he said that no matter how hard it is, no matter if he wakes up and he has no ideas he's in writer block, he will force himself through, even if it's 2,000 words of absolute garbage that he thinks he's going to delete, it's always 2,000 words every single day. Because when you write that much, you keep the momentum going to get past the writer's block. And even if you have to go back in and edit it and revise it, it keeps you going. Whereas if you get stuck in a scene, and then you don't write for 1 day, then 7 days, then 2 weeks. Then it starts to get to the point where like, okay, how am I going to get back? And what was I even doing? And what were all the characters doing, right?
The whole vision's hazy at that point, right?
So to answer your question, to circle back to your question of how do I keep track of stuff, a big part of it is you don't lose momentum. Because when you're writing every day and you're making that progress, whatever the characters were doing yesterday or the day before, like you're moving at such a velocity that it's top of mind.
You're almost just moving with them.
Exactly.
Right, as they go.
Whereas if you don't write for like 3 months and then you go back to it, that's when it's tough to remember what was everyone doing or how was everybody feeling or all that kind of stuff.
That makes sense. Do you like storyboard or is there like other ways, or do you just normally just write and then it just slowly works its way out?
So I do a rough outline. So all of my books, they are heavily fantasy, but they're short stories that teach soft skills. So teaching the soft skills is a primary thing. So I kind of have an idea of like what I want to share, what type of like skill sets I want to kind of like teach throughout the books.
Can you give us an example of that real quick, just so people know what you mean by soft skill?
Oh yeah. So like the first one is about how to listen to others and ensure they feel understood. The second one is about how to manage teams. The third one's about how to deal with uncertainty and randomness in life and how to avoid becoming fragile. So those are examples of soft skills. So first I make a list of all the things that I want the book to go over. And then I make a list of characters, and then I go through and I just do a very rough outline of like what's going to happen. Not necessarily chapter by chapter, but I've got these characters, I've got these skills. And a big part of it comes from listening to music. So when I'm driving around, I'm usually listening to music, and I listen to like cinematic music and instrumentals and video game music. And usually what'll happen is there will be like 1 to 4 very key important plot scenes that as I'm listening to music just come. And I hear the music and I see it. I've identified the characters, so I know who's playing in it, and then I just listen to the music and just let the music kind of take me wherever it's going to take me. And then I will get laser focused and like super zoomed in on specific key pivotal scenes of the story. And then I build the story around those scenes. So if there's like going to be this scene here halfway through the book that's going to have a major emotional impact, then I kind of work backwards and figure out how do I lead up to that?
How did we get here?
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That's interesting. And then at this point, you've already had those characters created, though, right?
Yeah.
What goes into character creation? Like, how is it based on people you know? Sometimes is it like, man, I met this dude, he was a jerk, I'm gonna definitely write his, write a character, or is it just kind of like, I need a character that fits this bio?
So usually I start with so like I said, I have an idea about what I want to go over in general. And then usually I'll get that really pivotal scene or two in my mind. And then I kind of build the main character from that. So like in my second book, Journey to Enya, the main character is a mouse. And that's about managing teams. So it's about him gathering a crew of people to, like the metaphor is if you get a bunch of team members in your company who are all rowing in the same direction, that's how you get to the destination. So he literally is the captain of a ship that is hiring critters to like physically row the boat forwards. Like I'm really capitalizing that metaphor. So then to answer your question about how do I come up with the characters are basically kind of personas that through my managing companies I've come across, right? And like, how do you, there's the go-getter, right? There's the person who has a bunch of ideas in the company who's always sharing ideas. And then there's sometimes the people who are just complaining and not doing anything. And there's like a kind of, and I don't want to stereotype people, but like if you're trying to simplify, like, hey, out of the hundreds of employees you have, a lot of them do kind of gravitate towards certain various stereotypes. And then, or I should say elements of it. So then I create characters out of that and then show versus telling when it comes to managing or leading them, what tactics work and what tactics don't work.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of fantasy authors do it this way, where a lot of their characters are built off of experiences that they've had?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you kind of have to. Like if you're writing, writing is ultimately, especially, is sharing our perspective of the world, right? With others, which kind of has to be grounded in our own experience to some extent.
Yeah.
Even if that is the experience of reading about other characters and other books, like that's still our experience of that kind of personality type that then we want to infuse in one of our own characters.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, even with experiences and worldviews, I mean, that's what C.S. Lewis had his Christian worldview plastered all over those books because like he can't get away from it. And that's what shapes his writings, you know what I mean? His whole allegory of the story. Before we get into the details of these books, because I want to learn about kind of the journey of each of these characters, what do you think the elements are that makes a good fantasy book? Because there are millions of fantasy books out there. And in your studies and you're trying to be a better and better author, have you found that there's certain characteristic traits of a book, of a fantasy book in particular, that makes it just stand out from the rest? And if so, what are those?
I have not done a lot of studying on fantasy writing specifically, so I don't know that I can give like a great answer for it. I think part of it is just catching the reader's attention, keeping the reader's attention, not getting too caught up in descriptions. I know sometimes authors, myself included, like my first drafts, I write some of the most beautiful poetry on how to describe a tree and all the different things like that. And some of my test readers are like, Nick, it's a tree. Just say it's a tree and move on. Like I don't want to read half a page description of how awesome this tree is. Like I got it, you know? So I think, over describing is a big fault that some writers do. And you want to let the readers, let their own mind work and our imagination work. It's a very healthy skill to build our own imagination. But again, that being said, I wouldn't say I'm like primarily these books their purpose is to teach soft skills, not to educate via fantasy. I use fantasy as the vehicle because I think that's more engaging and we remember stories better than facts. So I think by showing versus telling and getting the reader immersed in an emotional journey to kind of show how to manage teams rather than saying, here's a textbook of 8 pointers to keep in mind. You know what I mean? I think it's a better way of teaching, but my primary aim here is teaching, not entertaining with fantasy.
And then with that being said, do you have like an age bracket of readers that you write towards of kind of like, because you are trying to teach a lesson, but then there are different levels of writing, right? Because like I could read my 2-year-old a book and then I could read, her like a little, whatever, simple kid's book, like the little blue truck or whatever, right? And then if I pull her out, like a Charles Dickens, she'd be like, Daddy, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So do you write with a certain age group in mind to try to make sure that your writing's clear and can be understood?
So I write in very simple language because I want to make it just very simple and easy without a lot of work on the reader trying to understand what I'm saying. My target age group is probably college age / young professional. So someone who's really starting to think now about what am I doing with my life? What are the career that I want? A lot of these are soft skills that I feel like are not really taught in universities very well. And so it's someone who really, but I do think it's the soft skills that have really helped propel me forward, right? It's my ability to learn, to be able to have a difficult conversation with somebody without damaging the relationship is what has allowed me to succeed, not what I learned in school about business. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is nothing against universities. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like it's just something.
No, kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
we could have that conversation. We can.
I don't want to dive into that, but I guess I'm just saying I feel like this education is lacking in the universities. So I feel like for college kids / young professionals who are ready to kickstart their life, build a career, find success, whatever that means to them, but maybe want to feel a bit more equipped with the tools. Yeah. That's who I'm targeting.
And in a way that'll hopefully resonate deeper with them.
Yes.
Because it's not just, here's another textbook. You know, this is what you do if someone does something in your company you don't like, right? No, that's not going to be helpful. But if you tell a story, which is what your whole premise is, they're going to feel it, not just read it.
Yes.
And then it'll resonate deeper with them on how to move forward. And that's really what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes, exactly. And so when I write these, I do try to make these emotionally impactful. Like, I mean, characters die. This is not like a sunshine and rainbow and everything's great. I mean, there are moments I've had readers tell me that they cried during some of the scenes, tears of joy, tears of sadness. So I'm really trying to create an experience that will hit hard and land. So then when they're out in the real world and they're in the heat of the moment and they're in the middle of a difficult conversation or they're trying to manage a team and they got to make a quick judgment decision, they can kind of think of the characters and what they went through and kind of what they learned to then make the decision rather than trying to remember, again, 10 bullet points of what to do and what not to do.
That makes sense. So tell me about some of these books. So I have The Journey to Enya, The Dark Fairy, we got Embracing the Wild. So yeah, these titles are, first of all, very intriguing because if I read The Dark Fairy, I'm not thinking there's going to be a soft skill taught to me, right? Like it's a very engaging title, but then it says a story about listening and ensuring that others feel understood.
Yep.
And so we could talk about this one first. So where did this idea for this book come from?
So this was the first book that I wrote, and this is on the skill of listening. I feel it all starts here, and I feel a lot of people don't know how to listen. They're not taught how to listen, and it's a lot harder than I think people hear. Like we're taught in school, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, but we're not taught how to listen, or just as importantly, how to make the other person feel like we understand them. Like it's one thing to think you're listening, but it's another thing to make the other person feel like they're actually understood. I think if people can master that skill, almost nothing else matters. Like the second book is on managing teams, but if you don't know how to listen to the team, you can't manage them, right? But when we can listen to others and help them feel understood, there's a concept called psychological error. Talked about by Stephen Covey, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, Covey. And 7 Habits of Highly
I think
Effective
it's
People.
Covey. Someone else said Covey on the podcast recently. I think it is Covey. I've always said Covey.
Okay.
We're going with that.
Okay. I just want to make sure he gets credit for this.
Yes.
But he talks about the concept of psychological error. And like if we're in a difficult conversation, if I feel like you're not listening to me or you don't understand my perspective, there's like this darkness. It's like the air is sucked out of this room. And if the air was sucked out of this room, you wouldn't care at all what I have to say. All you'd be thinking about is how to breathe. Same thing with me. And when we help others feel understood, it's like releasing the oxygen back into the room. It's giving them psychological air is how he phrased it. And to me, that metaphor was just so powerful. And it's crazy. And now I can see it. If I'm talking to someone and they're just seeing red and their red face, I can like, okay, this person can't breathe. I'm not going to try to defend myself. I'm not going to logically talk to them about anything. I'm literally, now's not the time. I'm just going to say, hey, I hear you. I can tell you're incredibly frustrated. Help me understand your perspective. I want to make sure you feel heard and understood. And as soon as you say that, it's just you can almost physically see the oxygen going back into their lungs. Like, okay, finally, he's the one that listens, So anyways, a bit long-winded, but that's the topic of this. And that's why I wrote this one first, because I feel like listening is just the absolute most important soft skill that anybody can learn.
And so then you create some sort of character with a story and we follow her through, I'm sure, some sort of journey and get to the point. And I'm sure you talk about the consequences of what happens when people don't listen and what can happen, versus when you do. And I think that's when shout out Dave Feidner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Dave Feidner's an awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome
he is who connected us. That's how I wouldn't have known you existed. And when he told me about you, his eyes like lit up. We're having lunch. He's like, dude, this guy, Nick, he's writing these awesome books. And they're like, he used a term like allegorical, right? He's like allegorical for real life skills with fake characters. And I'm like, dude, this sounds awesome. I know that I have these books. I mean, they're beautifully done. The artwork is beautifully done. And this sounds intriguing. So this was your first book.
Yep.
And then what was next on the journey?
Journey to Enya.
Nice. I didn't even do that
Nice
on purpose.
there.
Yeah, let's go. Journey to Enya. And this is going to be one I'm probably going to be interested to check this out because I love woodland creatures. you know, Brian Jake or Brian Jock. Someone told me when I was really young, they actually pronounced it Jake. And does it make any sense? Because it would be Jock.
I always heard it was Jack. But
me too. But then I recently brought it back up. I said, "Oh, is these Brian Jakes?" And they're like, "No, it was definitely Brian Jocks." And I'm like, someone just lied to me when I was 8, and I believed them.
Oh man.
So we already briefly talked about this one. This is the idea of managing teams, and there's what's the mouse's name in this one?
So actually, as a shout out to Brian Jakes or Jocks, his name is Martin.
Amazing.
Yeah, I had to give him a nod.
That's amazing.
Inspiration.
And so Martin the mouse is trying to fill a ship pretty much with crew members.
Yeah. So the premise of this is at the very beginning of it, his daughter is diagnosed with a fatal illness, and she needs a very rare herb to heal the illness. And that herb is found on the island of Enya. But to get to that, it's a very perilous journey, and it's over the sea and through a lot of different obstacles. So he has to, in order to save his daughter, he has to staff his ship with a bunch of crew members, and he has to learn how to manage them to get to the destination and back safely.
Wow. And I'm going to read, like this just, I mean, I don't know, when you say, it's just such a smart idea, because I think, you know, when we talk about fiction or fantasy or whatever, like, cool, you read a book that was interesting to you.
Right.
Now what? Right. But then what you're doing is you have some sort of like real life lesson that, you know, I think even, you know, younger than college, even high school kids could really, you know, learn in a way that's interesting. And I think this is just great, man. Like, and first of all, it just sounds like a very interesting premise. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
We're going to chalk that one up for later. And what's next?
Next is Embracing the Wild. So it's a book that goes over the concept of anti-fragility, which was a really, and this was a coin phrased in the spirit of consistently messing up last names. I'll take a stab at this, but I think it's Nassim Taleb. He wrote a book called, I think it was literally called Anti-Fragile. It was an amazing book. It's like a 600-page book, very small font. I enjoyed it, but it's definitely a dense read, but I love the concept of it. And basically, kind of what it talks about are, I feel like a lot of people, as we go through, and this is definitely speaking to myself, you know, in the first person, I'll just use all of myself. So like 5 years ago, I tried to control everything. So I tried to wake up the day with an expectation of how the day was going to go. I tried to plan for all the things that could happen, have an action plan for all those. But the problem is life is uncertain. Nature's uncertain. There is so much randomness that just you can't predict. And there are setbacks that are going to happen. There's no amount of planning you can do to avoid all setbacks. And I feel how I used to deal with uncertainty when those things would come up, it would ruin my day. I would get upset. Those stressors would wear me down. I'd feel like it was a failure of mine if I made a bad hiring decision or firing decision or some strategic decision. And I used to get really down about it. But the concept of anti-fragility is we are anti-fragile, which means we get stronger when dealt with uncertainty and random stressors. So think about going to the gym, right? So our muscles. If our muscles just every day, everything was fine, there was no stressor, no pressure, eventually—
turn into a blob.
Right. Yeah. They're going to turn into a blob and they're going to wither away. Same thing with us as humans. Like there's a lot of stories about people getting depressed, have a bunch of money, or just sitting around doing nothing because they no longer deal with the stressors or the uncertainty. And then they just— happiness is not the result of that.
Right.
But like with our muscles, when you go into a gym, it's the random stressors, right? It's the lifting the weights, it's the running or whatever. And if you do just the same movement over and over, so if you try to get rid of the randomness by doing the same thing, that's not as good. Like the best way for maximum muscle growth is random stressors. It's changing it up. It's not going for a walk on smooth pavement. It's going for a walk on like a bumpy trail. So then all those small little muscles in your stabilizer or whatever the proper terminology is for your feet, they get worked out properly. Whereas if you're just doing the same movement over and over and over, you get rid of that randomness. So it's the combination of randomness and stressors is what makes us grow stronger. And it's the absence of them that makes us go weaker. So now, as I deal with uncertainty and as I deal with randomness and stressors, I no longer try to eliminate it. I've accepted it. And don't get me wrong, when I get bad news and like that, I mean, it's not sunshine and rainbows, but I know that this is how I grow. Like uncomfortableness is growth. Yeah. So it's a very different mindset way of approaching the random nature of the world, I should say, not just business, of the world. And I feel like that mindset shift is extraordinarily powerful. So I feel like I'm not doing the topic justice as I'm articulating it now.
No, you are. And I think it made sense to me. So at least you have one person that was 100% tracking with you. So you did a really good job. I mean, I think podcasters need to read this. If you make any content, because you cannot be fragile and put yourself online. Like you can't.
Right.
Like I could show you the comments that I have gotten and you just won't survive. And then with business, like whether it's just bad news, whether it's you hire someone that you think they're going to be the great employee and they turn out to be a terrible employee. I mean, there's just so many things that I struggle with this a lot. Just the up and downs. Like my natural tendency is to ride my highs really high and to ride my lows really low. And as you know, as a business owner, that's a terrible way to live life.
Yes.
If you are an entrepreneur, it is miserable.
Up and down and up and down and up and down.
You know, how you doing today? And then your happiness is always dependent on your circumstances, which is not how it should be.
Yeah.
And so I think the premise of this is another really strong premise. And you're right. Like adversity is what creates, you know, what do they say? Pressure creates diamonds, right? It's the same kind of concept. And I think so many times we try to build our lives away from all pressure.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying. Like, and so what? You're going to turn to a blob.
Right.
You know, if you try to keep protecting yourself in every way, like if I protected myself, I would have never created a podcast. I would have never had certain guests that I've had on the podcast. We can talk about those later that, you know, put me in a spotlight or given my opinions on certain things on a podcast because I would just be too afraid. And at the end of the day, like, so, you know, why live?
Right. Exactly. Like, you know, you need to take reasonable precautions so you don't blow up, right?
Sure.
Like if I just walk across the street blind without looking anywhere and I get hit by a car, like that's not doing anybody any favors. But for everything else, though, we always go stronger. We always grow stronger with that uncertainty. One of my favorite vacations, a close buddy from high school, we went to Costa Rica. And usually it's like, okay, I have everything booked and everything planned. So I make sure there's not going to be any boredom or we have everything taken into account for. We just had our first night booked and our last night booked. We had no idea what we were doing in between. And I'm like, I don't want to plan anything. I literally want to get there. I want to talk to the locals. I want to find out where the places to go are. I am sure we will find a roof somewhere that we can stay. It might not be the most pleasant accommodations in the world, but we're not going to just be sleeping on the streets. You know what I mean? Like there's something. And that trip was an absolute blast. Like every day it's like, hey, do you want to stay here another day or not? Versus other vacations, it's like, well, you know, we said we were going to leave after 2 days. And even though we wish we could stay here, it's not part of the plan.
Already booked it.
So we're out of here, you know. So
are you familiar with the YouTube channel called Yes Theory?
No.
You need to watch them.
Okay.
Like you would love Yes Theory. They basically, it's the theory of saying yes. It's what it is. And they basically give each other challenges that they fulfill that are literally that'll be like uncomfortable, but they have been to the most remote places in the world. Yeah. It's like a travel channel. But like they kind of started it off like when I first found them, they would literally do like the throw the dart thing and just travel there. But they've since have done like, I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Wim Hof. He's known as the Iceman. So they traveled the Wim Hof and they did a whole thing with Wim Hof, just saying yes to adversity and putting their bodies through that. So it's a group of guys. It's a really good channel. I haven't watched it much recently, but like probably like 2021, my wife and I were like heavily invested, like every release. But that's what they're saying. Like the whole premise of, and what they found is when you don't make those parameters of your trip, you're gonna meet amazing people. Right. You're gonna have the most fun, the coolest, like, and, you know, and not to get, you know, again, I get myself in trouble a lot on this show because that's what I do. But like, I just feel like we're living in like an ultimate fragile time. Yes. Like everyone gets offended about everything. Yep. Everyone on both sides on anything. And I'm not singling anyone out. I am a little bit, no, skinny, but like, you know, anything. Like, I feel like if anyone's feelings get hurt, it's like they need everyone to acknowledge their feeling got hurt. And, and it's just this, I mean, that's why I think a lot of people that have opinions are even afraid to put them online because they're like, oh, I don't want to put my opinions online because I don't want to offend anybody. Yep. It's like, well, that's not a great way to live. Jordan Peterson said something that I really appreciate. He was on this interview with this British lady, and she was kind of like, you've said a lot of things that have offended a lot of people to him. And he responded with, she's like, do you feel bad about that? And he said, you know, he sat there in his Jordan Peterson way, just sits there and just stares off, you know, for like a second. And he basically said, to be able just to have the freedom to think, you risk offending somebody. Like you have to be able to be willing to offend just to explore ideas. Yep. Because in the exploration of ideas, there might be someone out there that will be offended. Yep. And that's not the goal. That's not what we're trying to do. But if you don't live in an ever fragile world, then you have the ability to, like, the things you can accomplish is so much more because you're not just always down and depressed and sad because someone looked at you mean the other day and like all that kind of stuff. There's just so much more you can accomplish in life. And even non-entrepreneurs, right? Like you're just an employee working your way through a company. If you can figure out a way to ride life, you know, even not be like me, which is up and down and up and down. I just think you can accomplish so much more in life. Yeah. And that's really kind of what you're going for here, right? Yeah. 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 It's basically how to avoid becoming fragile. Yeah. That wasn't really a question. I kind of just got on my soapbox. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I mean, a lot of what you said resonated with me and I agree with that. Yeah. And I think this is just, and the working out analogy that you used too was so good, because like I said, if we're not challenging ourselves or putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations, like we're not going to grow.
Right.
And that's really what you're doing here.
And actually the opposite, I don't want to say you're dying, but like if it's
in
like
a way,
muscles, I
yeah,
mean, you are withering away to some extent. And if you go through 3 years and you never deal with any stressors or adversity, your mental ability your mental emotional capacity, whatever you want to call it, to deal with stressors actually weakens. So then if you do deal with some adversity after like 3 years of everything's been great, you might not know how to deal with that. And then that's when you could get mortally wounded in business or personal life, or you might have a major setback if you're not equipped to deal with it. But if it's part of your life and you do stuff and you put stuff out there and you get burned every so often and bumped and bruised, but nothing, you're not losing a limb or whatever, then it's like when it's showtime, right? When you have a make or life or die decision in your business or your personal life or whatever, you have the ability to then see through it and make a good decision.
Yeah, you've been working that muscle out. You've been ready.
No, exactly. You've been training that, just like with meditating and focus. Like when you meditate, you are physically growing a muscle in your brain responsible for helping you focus. So by being able to meditate and focusing on the breath every day and repeating that, when you get into a very chaotic situation where you're in a meeting and you're negotiating and you got to respond immediately, that ability to focus and kind of get rid of the noise and stay centered on your breath and be able to think clearly. I mean, I've made an obscene amount of success in business by being able to do that in a heated room.
Think clearly when everyone else is not.
Exactly.
Right.
And I owe like meditating, for example, for that. So just like it, yeah. Anyways, I'm rambling.
Ramble on. This is the Ramble podcast. We don't have an agenda. So I love these little rabbit trails.
Yeah.
So,
but it's all those things. So coming back to like why I'm writing, it's like that, like knowing how to think clearly when everybody else is not, knowing how to focus, like those are the life skills that are going to help you achieve whatever goal it is you're after. It's not, how to do derivatives or integrals or, any kind of, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Again, not knocking the universities or whatever, but like
a little bit. You can
those are the skills I'm trying to supplement. That's what I'm trying to provide the readers. It's a different perspective on those types of things that I don't think a lot of people really think about when they're just coming out of college and they're ready to start.
Yeah, I think they just get thrown in the deep end. And in a way, you're trying to give them a little bit of a lifeboat before they need it.
Right.
And build that out. Yeah. I think that's great, man. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think people need this. I think every soft skill that we've talked about so far before we get, and this is the new one, I'm assuming. Yep. Okay, we'll get there in a second. I don't want to spoil the excitement. It's coming in a second. But like everything, listening and understood, managing teams and avoiding fragility. Like this fragility, this is great. Do you have, how many of these soft skills, do you have like a list of them that you're like, I want to eventually get all of these? How big's your list?
Oh man. I have like a full course outline. I'm like loosely calling it the Self-Mastery Academy. Maybe it'll stick, maybe it won't. I have like 3 books that I'm ready to write right now. Wow. I've got it. The plot is done. The characters are done. It's clawing at me every day that I'm not able to write on it. So I have like 3 books that I'm ready to run now. Probably another 4 that I've got I know the concept. I kind of got it, but it's not fully fleshed out just yet. So yeah, I have no shortage of ideas. It's like, I absolutely love it. I could talk about it all day. I love everything about it.
Before we get to this last book, I want to ask you a question. Have you delved into any type of like language creation in your writings yet? Like when you create a language, like from like Tolkien created Elvish and created a full, alphabet, whatever fake language. Have you delved into that world yet?
I have not dove into that world yet.
Is there something you've ever thought about doing? Because I think that would be such a hard, but yet really cool. Like Christopher Paoloni, he had a full Elvish language in Aragon, and it's just like, have you ever studied those things in your writings or like languages or that kind of thing? Because I've kind of been curious. You're an author, like that has to be an unbelievable challenge, right?
So I kudos to every author that's done that. That's crazy. I haven't thought about language creation specifically, but I've been getting really into musicals lately, and like The Greatest Showman. I love that.
Great.
I don't know if you've heard of Epic the Musical. It's about the story of the Odyssey that just came out.
Oh, sick! Really? Like the phenomenal. old like Iliad, Odyssey. Really?
Yeah. It's a story of Odysseus after the war when he's going home to Penelope.
Isn't
his wife and his
that
kid.
when he meets Medusa on the way home? Isn't that the book? I don't remember. I read it once. I remember what
Medusa's not in the musical. I don't remember if it was in the original story or not. But anyways, it is a phenomenal. Anyway. Another sidetrack, but
don't apologize. I love the sidetracks. I love the sidetracks.
I'm so used to running like my L10 meetings, and it's like we got to stay on task.
Literally, this is amazing.
I just got out of 3 hours of L10 meetings this morning, so I just need to like switch.
Shout out Dave Feidner.
Yeah, thank you, Dave Feidner. It was very, very effective meetings, thanks to you. But okay, anyways, so I'm not exploring language creation yet, but I really am appreciating the power in like good musicals and the stories that are being able to be told in song form. So I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that into my book somehow. And I don't know whether that's like through poetry. I know Tolkien had some songs in there, but I'm trying to find a way to capture that experience that I feel when I hear like a really powerful song. Like pretty much everything in The Greatest Showman I think is phenomenal. And I'm trying to figure out how do I bring that experience into a book. I don't quite have the answer, but that's kind of what in my next book that I'm writing, I'm going to try to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's more songs versus a different language and then how to.
This is probably really stupid and you're not asking for advice, but I'm going to give it because we're here.
I appreciate it.
You know, like, is it as simple as describing the music that the characters are hearing to try to convey what they're feeling while listening to that music? Is it that simple or is that just dumb?
Actually, that's a good perspective. I didn't really think about it. I've been thinking about how do I present the song, if you will, in a way that the reader feels that. But I guess if I presented the song and then I explained the character's perspective of that, then maybe the reader
of what they were feeling. You could explain like the swelling of the orchestra, the drop in the whatever, and you could if the song's making the character feel sad. Why is that? What's happening? What is the feeling? You know, I don't know. Like that could be.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
So it wasn't dumb.
I have to give you credit. No, it wasn't dumb, actually. No, it wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't dumb. Because, it's like if I think about how do I feel
when you listen to that music. Yeah, like when we listen to The Greatest Show, I'm like, this is the greatest show, right?
Yeah,
like,
just ready to go.
You're like, ready, right.
Yeah,
like, you know, in describing that feeling in the music. And you could almost work through like, when these instruments or these style is played, this is the feeling that ensues. Yeah. Right. So like minor keys, sadness, major keys, you know, and I don't know.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
I'll have to mull it over. Thank you. I appreciate the advice.
See, this is why we do rabbit trails.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing rabbit trails for this reason right here.
Yeah.
Let's go. I can say I helped someone. This is cool.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. There you go.
Well, I mean, so no languages though.
Not yet, anyways. I'm not saying I'll never do it. Honestly, the thought never crossed my mind. To be honest. The
only reason why I think it's just really cool, like I just think it adds with Tolkien, for example, or Paloni, like when you have a world that also has its own language, it's just like a depth. Like there's like another layer of like, wow, like they have like reality, right? And then, you know, I'm sure I was a nerd in high school. So then there'd be like people be on forums and they would only write in that language. And I remember I created my own like dumb little language when I was in junior high. Like,
nice.
You know, A equals this symbol, B equals this symbol.
Start writing in code. So that way if the teacher catches your note, they can't.
I wrote like, I got to the point with whatever stupid language I created, I would write like whole page journal entries with it. And I loved it. I feel like with AI, it'd be pretty easy to be like, you write it once, and then say like A equals this character, and now I'm just going to type this out normally and then just insert it into the book pages. But anyway.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
Yeah. You don't have to do that.
You give me some good ideas to mull around, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just think like when you add that like layer of, it's just, I almost feel like people, when I read Aragon, for example, because I already read Lord of the Rings at that point, I was just like, oh, this guy wasn't playing around with this world. Right. You know, it was almost just like this, like extra, like, oh, he's serious. You know, like I think it was like on page, like the first chapter, there was Elvish, and I was like, and you know, I was like, oh, cool. And then even when it'd be like the elves would sing, then he would write it in Elvish. Yeah. And there's just so many different unique things that you could do, and so maybe in the next future books. Okay. You know, I just want like a little.
I'll give you a nod for sure if I do it. Yeah.
You can name a character like. I don't know.
Think about your character a little bit. Let me know, then I'll incorporate them into a future book.
I don't know, maybe like an obese diabetic mouse could be good.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was kidding. I've lost weight. Okay, no, I was kidding. That'd be fun. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So new book though.
Yep.
I'd love to talk about this. So we have 3 books that you've already made. How does that feel, man? To just sit here with 4 hard copy real stories that you've written after, like you said, 10 years of almost losing your why, not even writing. Now we're here. How does that feel?
It is crazy because like 4 years ago, I had nothing and I was just starting to think about the Dark Fairy, and now I got 4 published books, getting ready to write the next one. It's a crazy feeling. It's tough to explain. It feels really, really good though.
And then the next step is we need to get this in hands as many people as we can, because I think writing the book is half the battle.
Yeah.
And then now marketing it, getting it out, that's the next battle.
And I'm not good at that next battle. But now I want to get a handful of books out there just so I had something, which I feel like I'm at now. So now I'm trying to figure out the marketing angle of it. But that is definitely not. I'm a very good writer, I feel. I feel very confident in my writing abilities, but I am not a good marketer. So
isn't that true of it, like business, right? Like generally speaking, like I'm a very good people person, for example, but I suck at details and analytics. That's why Tom, people can't see, he's in the room over there because he is good at like all the details and planning my calendar and all this stuff because I just suck at that. But if you ask me to do this or hang out with someone or do like, that's what I'm good at. So you're good at the writing. We need to find you a partner that can just boost out this marketing stuff. But hopefully this podcast helps the marketing a little bit. And with that being said, let's talk about this new book. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so this one is my newest book. It's The Space Between Us. And the concept here is navigating difficult conversations. So this covers difficult conversations that we have personally, professionally. It could be a negotiation, like a business negotiation. It could just be, a kid and their parent having a disagreement on something, or friends, or anything like that. But life is filled with difficult conversations, and I feel a lot of people try to avoid those. We kind of talked about the concept of fragility and how people are. I'm sorry. We talked about the concept of fragility and how people sometimes avoid saying things because they don't want to hurt somebody else's feeling. And you actually made a really good comment, and that actually takes away from the content of our dialogue, right? So if you're at a business meeting and you're dealing with a new competitor that opened up in town, and you feel like a certain department needs to change something or is dropping the ball, but you don't want to say anything because the head of that department's on the meeting and you don't want to damage that relationship, then you just don't say anything. Now we're not acknowledging the root issue here that will actually help us survive. So I feel a lot of people, myself included back in the day, and I still struggle with this today, is, we avoid difficult conversations because we don't want to damage the relationship. I don't want to tell you a truth that might hurt your feelings or make you think less of me or demotivate you or something like that. So I'm just going to avoid the conversation entirely until, weeks turn into months, turn into years, and the problems gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Then the volcano explodes, and then it's just
way worse
a laundry list.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's way worse for everybody. Everyone in the team got damaged in it. So I feel, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but now I'm not afraid of difficult conversations anymore. And I'll go into them and I will still stub my toe or say the wrong thing and whatever, but I have enough clarity that I can see through it and get through it with somebody where we get to the answer, we can be transparent and honest with one another. And no matter how difficult the conversations, when we walk away, we have not sacrificed our respect for one another. I might have told you something that you don't like, but by the end of the conversation, you know that it's coming from my heart, and I love you, and I'm trying to help you and help us as a team. And I'm doing that by being transparent with you, not by sugarcoating the truth, because that's a disservice to you. I'm being selfish to make it easier for myself.
Right.
So that's that was a big motivation behind writing this book.
And talk about a skill that no one has. Because I feel like in this world, there's a unique few that have mastered this.
Yeah.
And I think it's for two reasons. I think you have two very stark ends to this ability. On one end, and like negative ends. On one side, you have people that are so afraid of offending, so afraid of the repercussions that they never are honest because they don't want to be the problem, right? They don't want to cause a problem. Even if they know something needs to improve, something needs to change, they just don't want to cause conflict. And on the flip side, I think you have people that just thrive in conflict and they actually don't even want to do it to help anyone. They just want to they might even be right. The game of it, yeah, they might even be right, but they just love the always be the brash, nasty kind of person. So I feel like there's two types of people, and to be able to be good at organically bringing up maybe someone else's fault while doing it in a way that still conveys love and care is a skill set.
Yes.
And it's not easy to do. And I think for me, what I struggle with mainly is, well, what if I'm the one that's wrong?
Right.
That's what I have in my brain. So I might be in our agency or with my podcast producer. I might be I'm telling you, this is the way we need to go. But then I have this thing in the back of my mind. What if, Dillon, what if you're the wrong one?
Right.
And then sometimes then I won't say anything. It's well, you know what? You do your thing. I'm not even going to.
Right.
And you're just going to cave.
Because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to make a mistake.
And it's again, that fear. It's what we're talking about with the other book,
fragility.
Right? Yeah. It's the fragility. But then if I said, hey man, I might be wrong here, but let me tell you exactly what I'm thinking.
Yes. Yes.
What a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Even in this conversation, we're both that's the way to do that,
100%.
And so when I'm working with my producer, it's the same way. He thinks our clips need to be a certain way. And then there might be times where I'm just okay, man, yeah, it's fine. Just do them your way.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
What do you really think? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, just tell me. And, especially with relations, me and my wife, like, it was really funny. This happened 2 nights ago. We didn't get in a fight. I'm not like, but it was something to where she asked me something. And before she finished asking, she said, you know what? It's fine. Actually, I'll just do it. Right.
Yeah.
And she wasn't mad at all. She wasn't frustrated. I was like, no. Like, what would you like? Would you like me to do this? I'm more than happy to. Just tell me what you want in this situation. She's like, no, you have to work. It's okay. I got it. I'm like, Hannah, tell me what you want. She's like, okay, I'd love to just have a moment to myself. Could I just go and take Curtis, which is our youngest? Could we just go to the store real quick? You hang with Madeline. And I was like, is that what you really want? She's like, yes. I'm like, then yes.
That's awesome.
Just tell me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it was a moment for her because she felt bad because currently, as you know, like I ran home. It was kind of a stressful day. I was behind because of a couple other things. And we had a couple fires I was putting out.
Yeah.
And then I had a call that was about ready to happen. This was last night. I had a call that had to happen, and it was with one of my former podcast guests. He was the ex-NFL athlete, and he also owns an insurance business. It was kind of a big call, and so all this was happening. And she's like, you know what? It's okay. And I'm like, well, that's not what you want, though. Like, communicate.
Right.
And there might have been a situation where she communicates what she wants, and then I say, can we do that tomorrow? Like, it doesn't mean she gets it.
Yes.
Or it doesn't mean I get it, but at least communicate. So that way I can then clearly make a decision. I think the worst thing team members can do, marriage can do, is you don't give your partner, your significant other, all the information they need to make an informed decision.
Yes.
And that's really, you're damaging them as a result of not being honest.
Yep. And one of the things that you said was so key, it doesn't mean that the person's going to get what they want. Like if I share with you what I want you to do, it doesn't mean you have to say yes. Like understanding and acknowledging someone's perspective and point of view does not mean that you agree with it. It just means you understand and acknowledge it. And that alone, regardless of what happens after that, is such a huge, huge, huge victory. Because even if you do something different, if at least the person's like, hey, at least I know you understand me. I know you heard me. And now if you're going to do something differently, you're still going to do what you can do anyways, you're probably going to explain why and help me understand why you're not going to be able to do that. And if we can understand each other, even if I don't agree with the decision, even if I wish you would do something differently, it's tough to be that mad at you. You know what I mean? If we're both, we're giving each other psychological air, we know what we're trying to say and communicate. We're closing the space between us. That's why I call it the space between us. We're closing that gap. So we're speaking more heart to heart. It completely changes the dynamic. Whereas a lot of times people they'll agree to avoid the conflict and then they kind of sacrifice some self-worth a little bit when you do that. Yeah.
And you sacrifice just the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And I find myself, I don't love conflict. And my wife grew up in a very high conflict home. And so now she does everything to not get in conflict too. And so you have two people that don't thrive in conflict. Yeah. And we've been married for 7 years. Yeah. A long time. No, I was kidding. 7 years. And so we've learned that about each other. And I'm quicker than she is to being willing to nip the conflict in the bud. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing of listening and understanding how people function. Like I've learned there's times like if we have a disagreement, I want to be like, hey, let's fix this right now. Let's talk about this right now.
Yeah.
And because I want to fix it, I'm like, let's get this done. And I've learned from her that it's the best case scenario for us to pick it up in an hour. Yeah. Because that's actually when she's communicated to me, she's like, hey, sometimes just let me just be alone. I'm going to pray.
Yeah.
I'm going to just take a moment with the Lord.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back. Because otherwise, she's like, then I might, like, if you force me to deal with this right now, I might say things I regret later. But if you give me that moment of clarity, and it took me a while to understand that because I was like, no, it'll be fine. Like, let's just talk about it now. It's not going to be a big deal. And I learned like that's just how she functions. And I have another business partner that it took me a while to understand this too. But when we have a disagreement on something business or something, I can think on my feet very well. So if you come to me with a problem, one of my skill sets is let's get it done, right? I don't need time to think about it. My gut, is generally right. Like I generally make good decisions on the fly. He needs to process things through. And so we just recently had a big kind of issue we were kind of just working through. And I learned that I was like, let me just type him out an email. So I typed him out. I'm like, hey man, I would like to talk to you about all of this. When you're ready to talk about this, let's talk about it. It was the best conversation we've ever had. Because that's exactly what he needed. But if I would have come in there and just been like,
guns blazing,
hey dude, this is insane, bro. Like, why are we making these decisions? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it wouldn't have been a productive conversation. But because I've really been trying to practice what you're teaching here is listening to what he needs. And what he needed was time to process.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm not going to come in here and just throw this. This is what I want to talk about. Now, for someone else, like I would hate for you to do that with me because then I'd be like, oh my goodness, we're talking about all this stuff. Like,
this is insane. Like, let's just do this now. Like,
yeah,
what
but
are
for
we doing
him,
here?
you could sleep on it. He could think about it and then come prepared.
Process
and so
it.
that's exactly what, so we're working on it. And Ken Bogart, I was, talking to you about him. He has a book called No Honesty, but it's Ken AOW, No Honesty.
Okay.
And that's kind of his premise with not beautiful characters, just the sense of, hey, you need to be open and honest with people.
Yep.
And I think, I need to introduce you to him because I think that'd be a good connection for you.
Awesome.
Because he does a lot of book stuff. But B, now that this is a problem that is in marriages between parents and kids, between business partners, between employees and employers. I mean, this is just such a great topic. So I think you nailed it on the topic. Can you divulge a little bit about the characters? Like what kind of goes on in this book, or you don't want to spoil it?
Yeah. No, I can, be a small little spoiler, but obviously I'm not going to ruin anything big. This is by far my most ambitious work. This was kind of my most complex idea. So the basic premise, there's three main characters. So the first two is a squirrel and a chipmunk. And the chipmunk is a prisoner of war, and the squirrel is a captain in the military who's charged with interrogating the chipmunk to get information out of him. This is not a book about torture or anything like that. So
it's getting good.
Right. So this is not like a bloody anything like that. But because I was trying to think about what's a difficult conversation, an interrogation is a pretty difficult conversation, right? And a lot of the inspiration of this came from Never Split the Difference by I think it's Chris Voss is the name. And he talks about more like hostage negotiations, but I really like that book. So I grabbed some inspiration of that. So anyways, that's kind of the premise of it. But difficult conversations, I feel like, happen in two worlds. There's the interpersonal world between us, but then there's the internal world. So the third character, there's like a separate world that is inside the consciousness of the chipmunk who's being interrogated. And so the third character is an elemental, a water elemental that lives inside that world that's in this consciousness. So while the difficult conversation is playing out, the readers go through the journey of both what's happening in the external world, like between the squirrel and the chipmunk, but then also while that's happening real time, what's happening inside the chipmunk's mind. So we can kind of see that during a conversation when we do a tactic that's not great, how that impacts people's consciousness and it makes them hard to be open-minded. And then but when you do the proper technique, what happens inside the mind of the other person and why it makes it easier for them to then have that conversation. So I'm trying to show both inside our consciousness as well as external.
Almost like, forgive me, this is not meant to be offensive. This is to help us understand, like Inside Out, kind of like the movie Inside Out, where there's like the outside factors of, let's say, her missing a goal in hockey influences the characters that were living inside of her brain, right? The different feelings of emotions. And it's a similar concept of that, which is outside the way you talk to someone can affect the inside of who they are. And you're supposed to do this in a way to explain it with different worlds and that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the concept of it, right?
So I've never actually seen the movie Inside Out.
Okay.
I've heard about it. And based on what you just said, it sounds very similar. So I've not seen that movie.
You should watch it.
But
add it to the list.
Okay.
But I'm also like a dad of a 2-year-old. So we also just thrive on watching animated movies. Fun fact, I don't cry in movies unless they're animated.
Really?
I don't know what it is, but animated movies get me, bro.
Have you seen Wild Robot? Yep.
Bro.
Yep.
So I watched that when I had 101 fever on medication. And I kid you not, my wife came down. I was like quarantined in the basement when I was sick. This is like in January. I hadn't seen anyone, like my kids, in 2 days because I was like dying, right? Quarantine, I was thrown up. It was just a mess.
Oh, man.
Okay. And I watched Wild Robot.
Oh, boy.
with like no sleep, miserable. And I was like, she came down. I was mid just like ugly cry, like, and she's like, what are you watching? I tried to tell her about the movie and I couldn't get through it without just sobbing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably, I think Wild Robot was probably the hardest I've ever cried in a movie.
It's a really
just
good
because
movie.
I was also really sick, but it's great.
Yeah,
great
it's a very
film.
good movie. Yep.
Great film.
Love that movie.
Oh man, something about like, and also this is going to be really dumb. So, but like I'm adopted. And so that movie, in that moment,
oh wow,
that's what like hit me, was because they're not blood related, but she is taking care of them, and that's the owner, like she's the parent. It doesn't, and I was just like, oh, dying.
Yeah. That was a tearjerker.
Oh yeah. So anyway, like that's a premise, and I think it's a beautiful story. And so ideally, this podcast is going to be out the day this drops.
Yep, August 12th is
August 12th. So if you're listening to this today, go to Amazon. In the description, pick up a copy. It is going to be on Amazon, right?
Yep, it'll be on Amazon.
So any other instructions you want to give our listeners on how they can get a copy? Is anything you want to do? Leave a comment. Like this is your opportunity to promo the book in full.
Okay. So I'm definitely not good at the promoting aspect of life. But yeah, so if this is on August 12th, the book comes out. It's incredibly important. Every sale on August 12th is huge because then that'll give me a chance of reaching the #1 bestseller status on Amazon, which if I do that, then I can say this is a #1 Amazon bestseller, which will really... Ultimately, what that does, like I'm not doing this for the money, like the royalties, I'm pricing it really low, so it's minimal. I'm really looking for impact. So if it hits the #1 status, there's just a lot of other synergistic benefits of it. So more people will become aware that the book exists. And I do genuinely feel from the bottom of my heart, this book can help people navigate difficult conversations, which can help them in life. So every purchase on August 12th specifically is huge, is exponentially beneficial. But if you're watching this after August 12th, obviously just to read the book, I would love an Amazon review. Amazon reviews are the other big thing. So if you do get the review, if you do get the book and if you read it and if you genuinely like it, I would absolutely love an Amazon review and any kind of feedback you have, positive or negative, very big on transparent feedback so I can improve my future books.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, I heavily recommend you guys. It's called The Space Between Us. It's available on Amazon right now. Please go ahead, pick up a copy.
Yep.
Amazon review. But if you are listening to this episode today on August 12th, stop what you're doing. In the description of this video will be the link. So go get the book, support Nick, everything that he's doing. And if you enjoyed this conversation, obviously, like you're going to enjoy the books. You know, right? Like that's, if you made it this far in the podcast, you got to buy the book.
That's
like,
probably pretty good.
Yeah. What are we doing? And so please check out that book, rate it as high of a star rating as you possibly can as you enjoy that. And but thank you, Nick. This has been fun. I've enjoyed this conversation. Can you believe we talked for an hour already?
Has it really been? Wow, I've completely lost track of time.
Hour and 6 minutes already.
That's wild.
This podcasting goes fast when you're having fun. You know,
crazy.
when you have a good conversation, like it's been like an hour and 20 before. I've been like, we've only been talking for 15 minutes, right?
Right.
And you know, my alarm's going off like you have a meeting,
right,
you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I appreciate your insight into all this stuff. And I think what you're doing is great, man. I think the world needs those skills, but I love the creative angle you're taking. You're not just saying, hey, here's another webinar.
Right.
You're putting in hours more work because you could probably do a presentation on the soft skills today.
Yeah.
But then the reality is doing it in a way that makes the most impact. And that's
what, to stick with the readers. Like, I could right now in 5 minutes give you all the pointers, but 2 days from now, you're going to forget about it. So yeah, just to actually make it last, it's a lot of work. But I love it. It's a true passion for mine, so I enjoy it.
Have you ever considered, as we wrap up, a couple, fun little final questions? Have you ever considered doing any other type of like non-allegorical writing, like just, maybe one that's not trying to pursue a soft skill? Like, have you ever tried to do just like a historical writing or like I don't know, just any other style of writing? Or is this kind of just where your lane is? You just love it. Like, would you do a horror book with this type of thing? Like. Yeah, how to thrive during scary times or something like that,
So I wrote 2 fantasy books for young adults when I was in high school and college that were just pure fantasy. And yeah, at some point, I think I would want to do that. I do have some ideas of just pure entertainment that I want to create that probably will always have some kind of soft skills infused in it because that's just like who I am. But that's not the primary focus. And the primary focus is more the entertainment aspect of it. I do have some ideas that I would like to write about, but I have a handful of concepts that I need to get done with this first before I would just have the desire to really spend a lot of time in it. Because a lot of this I'm writing about is just for like my team members. I have several hundred employees and I want,
it's live, like it's happening right now.
Yeah. And it's driving me nuts because I have so many things that I could just give certain people that I feel would really, really help them. And I want to get that done first before. So, but maybe after like the 10th book of this, then maybe I'll splurge and I'll just
have some fun in retirement. Just be like, exactly. I'm just going to ride around
and just write a book that's just fun.
Just for fun. Yeah. I really said that. At that point, you'll be like a bajillionaire and with millions of readers, and
we'll see.
It'll be great.
We'll see.
But like I said, even not, man. I think you're of the mindset that like if you could just impact one person, 2 people, 3 people, like that's the beautiful thing, right? Like with my podcast, I'm never going to be the biggest podcast in the world. Most likely. No, it's kidding. Right. Never going to happen. But if I've already been able to impact hundreds and hundreds of people. And I'm like, dude, that's
well, and I'm guessing when you get that feedback from a viewer says, hey, I just watched your podcast and it really there's nothing like it. No. Like that is just the absolute peak of fulfillment. Like I'm getting like teary-eyed just thinking about it. Cause I'm thinking about like readers and that read that. Like, it's just, that's what it's all about, like we're all just trying to figure out this thing called life. And if we can just reach out and touch a couple people and help them.
Especially through our passions.
Yes.
I think that's has your business impacted a bunch of people? Yeah, absolutely. You're employing people. You're giving them a job and that is fulfilling, right? Yeah. But then to be able to do that with a passion, I think it's different.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely nothing different. Like it. There's absolutely nothing like it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like when I get texts being like, hey man, listen to your full 3-hour podcast. I'm like, first of all, why? You must be really bored. But secondly, like, thank you. And it means a lot. And yeah, you're all right. For people that haven't experienced that yet, it is a surreal feeling.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I interviewed NASCAR driver Danica Patrick, like I was sitting like across from her like this, and I watched her growing up in NASCAR, being a NASCAR driver, and then do GoDaddy commercials, and all of a sudden I'm sitting next to her. It was like, this is insane. Like just like I can't even fathom. I'm an insurance sales guy. What am I doing here? And then like last week when I was in my sponsor, shout out Parlor sponsoring this episode, by the way, when we were in their studios in Dallas, and I was sitting across from an ex-NFL athlete that's a Super Bowl winning champion, played for the Steelers. And this is like not to get nerdy, but like these are the Ben Roethlisberger, Troy Polamalu, like all the people that I grew up watching. I'm not even a Steelers fan, but I'm a football fan. And he was just talking about, yeah, man, like this guy told me in the locker room, he was my mentor, all this stuff. I'm like, how am I talking? You know what I mean? Like it is just a surreal thing to be able to like your passion, like when your passion actually like turns out into something more than that. It is it's an incredible thing. And for you, like, are you doing any type of like in-person book signing, or are you doing anything like that people locally in Michigan could meet you?
I've never done it before. I am trying to actually put a lot of effort into the marketing. So for this one, I will be doing something. I'm getting ready to reach out to some local bookstores to try to set that up. I have a few kind of things I'm thinking about, but I do want to do a book signing.
Perfect.
That'll be
multiple ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to be confident in this, dude. Like this is good stuff.
I need to take my own advice. I know.
Yes, just be confident.
The marketing, I'm definitely. I don't really have the confidence, but I'm working on it though, and things. Honestly, like I do really appreciate you and I spoke together a little bit before this podcast, and even during this podcast, I genuinely appreciate everything you've been saying for that. Like it does help give me the motivation and the confidence that I need to just put myself out there. So
I will say marketing yourself is so different than marketing a business or other people. Yeah. Like for my own podcast consulting business, to say like we live the same life, by the way, because I'm like, dude, who like, I don't want to.
Exactly.
Or my podcast, like I'm helping other podcasts right now get sponsorships. And I'm like, I don't want to promote my. So, like it's been tough. And like my show's called The Dillon England Show. Talk about the most narcissistic name possible. And I have to like, hey, what's your show called? It's my name, and I have to like.
My company's right now, Leja Stories, and I hate it. I'm just like, why? Like I need something better. Yeah. Like I just can't.
But it's not. It can't be better because that like the branding, like it is so good that it's called Leja Stories because like if people meet you and they know your name, they can find your brand. People that meet me, they know Dillon, they're going to find my podcast.
That's good perspective.
There's intentional, the reason why it's called the Dillon England Show is not because I think I'm special. It's because a branding expert said, you could call it, coffee and business and it will never be found. Because
that's good perspective.
Because then it's like, hey, what was that podcast called? Oh, it's a guy named Dillon. Do you remember the name of his podcast? No. What was the name? It's like coffee and beer. I don't know. You're like, they can't find it. But if now I know anyone that meets me, that types me into Google,
they'll see it. Yeah.
They'll see all of it. And so that's why having some sort of brand consistency, like so if it's your last name, for example.
Yeah.
Dude, we know Nick. Yeah, Nick Leja. Oh, what's his right? Yeah, Leja Stories. I mean, it just flows. And so I would encourage you to keep it.
This is the second bit of advice you've given me that I appreciate.
Okay, good.
I appreciate that.
Good. You can ignore all the bad advice. So the two good parts.
There's probably more than two, but just off the top of my head.
I would encourage you to keep it because like I've thought about changing. Like I have a sub podcast show called Here's the Dill, which is just me talking, and here's the deal, but play on here's my name, Dillon. Okay. And people have already been like, hey, what was the name of that? What's the deal? They can't remember, right? Yeah. But like they know the Dillon England Show because it's just sticks.
Yeah.
So as much as I hate saying it, like I went to this event. There was like literally 30,000 people at this event. And I had this item. I'll show you the banner. It's here in the office somewhere. And I had to make a big banner, like super, like 8 feet tall with me printed on the banner with the Dillon England show. And I was like standing by the banner and people would be like, look at me, look at the banner. Look at me. They're like, are you Dillon England? I'm like,
no.
The one and only.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And it was so uncomfortable, but it was just the right, it's just probably the right thing to do.
I appreciate that.
I think it's good to be uncomfortable with it.
Yes.
I think it's probably a problem if you're not uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Because then you probably do have a narcissistic problem.
Right? Yeah. But, that's a good point.
Oh, anyway, well, man, hey, I wish you the best with all this stuff.
Thanks
I know
a lot.
my listeners do as well. And then shout out, guys, listen, if you like reading, if you want to try something new and you want to support a local Michigan business owner that owns a lot of businesses, and you want to, and just help a new writer out, not new writer, I guess in the perspective, you're still growing your writing.
Yeah, still in the infancy stage.
Yeah. But the space between us is now out. Go pick up your copy today. And bro, thanks for coming on this episode of the podcast, man.
Thanks so much.
Was this fun? Did you enjoy
this was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you very much.
To say that. But anyway, thank you guys for coming to this episode of the Dillon England Show. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Nick, for coming on. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace. Cool, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.